So today we're going to talk about the winch that Red Winches supply to INEOS for the Grenadier. We often get asked the question, which one of our winches is it from our range? Well, it's not any of the ones that you see on the website. Okay, so to give a bit of background, the winch that's supplied to INEOS has to fit into this CMS. Okay, this is the front cross member from a Grenadier, and we can see that the winch sits in here. The winch rope is entering rope over drum, and if I roll it right over, we can see that, let me just roll it a little bit more. The winch is mounted down into this plate. There's two pads on the inside of the plate here, which basically form part of the structure of the winch. So without that CMS, this winch isn't going to work correctly because it needs those two front pads for the winch to be pulled up tight to with these mounting bolts. Without that, the winch is not square, the winch is getting pulled slightly out of shape, and because of that, the winch can basically create extra resistance. What you will find as an operator is if you go to use it and you find the free spool's really heavy, then the winch isn't mounted square, I'm afraid. Okay, so why is the winch so small? Well, basically, lack of space in the Grenadier. I mean, INEOS did an amazing job bringing the vehicle to market with a factory-fitted winch. Particularly in the European market, this is a really, really big thing. It's very, very difficult to get through all the crash testing and everything else. So for INEOS to do this and to offer a factory-fitted option is a brilliant thing. And they need to be given credit for that, okay? So the actual winch itself is a bit of a different unit, and we don't have it on the website. Now, the main reason for this, though it's Red Winch's design, it's a product that we supply to INEOS, it's not owned by INEOS, it's Red Winch's. We don't make this big lump of steel, the CMS. So if you have got a Grenadier and you want to retrofit the winch, you're going to need to source this. And unfortunately, we don't make this. We haven't got the designs for it. I think it's a case of trying to work out who supplies INEOS or buying it from INEOS themselves. And you see, this is the ECE model one. All the oil cooler and extra radiator support brackets are all built into this. On the rest of world model, it's slightly different. It's more of just a centerpiece, and the brackets are separate pieces for those. Also, we don't have access to and we can't supply the different bumper plastics as well. So while we can supply the winch and the associated parts, it would be up to you to go and source the CMS that's correct for your vehicle and the correct plastics or number plate bracket if it's a rest of world model. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've actually got. Okay, so here we've got the breakdown of the kit. This basically the parts that we supply to INEOS. I will caveat that there are two different earth cables. So the earth cable attaches to one of the stud points on the motor here, and you'll see there's a blanking plug in two of the holes, so it comes onto this one here and goes back to the chassis. Basically, on the ECE model, it's a slightly shorter cable. On the rest of world model, because the winch sits slightly further forwards, the cable needs to be a little bit longer. But that is the only difference in the kit that we supply to INEOS between ECE and rest of world. The winch itself, it's a 5.5 ton model. We've got our 7 horsepower ox motor. We've got a steel drum, internal cone brake, 258 to 1 reduction gearbox, 4-stage planetary gearbox, and a manual free spool. And you can see here how I can actually flex the winch a little bit because it's not held together with those extra tie bars I mentioned a minute ago. And this is why it's really important that the mount that it's fitted into is completely square, and those pads within that CMS are not out of tolerance, because that can make the free spool in particular very heavy. It also means that the winch is not working efficiently, which increases amp draw, which puts more load on the electrical system. So it's something to think about. Now, this is the electrical supply that we supply to INEOS. Now, in there we've got a Albright DC88 series contactor, and below that we've got the receiver for the wireless winch control. Now, this fits up behind the right-hand side headlight, and that cable there connects to the Albright isolator, which is mounted up behind the headlight. Now, I say that, it's there if you've got the 500 amp accessory package. So you'll know if you've got that, if you've got an overhead switch panel. Okay, without that, trying to retrofit one of these into a Grenadier is basically a non-starter. We do have a solution for that if you have that sort of spec vehicle. The Power cables, they're all 50mm square, run then down from the contactor to the motor here, and you'll notice that we've got it nicely colour coded with white, red and yellow. Funnily enough, we've got white, red and yellow on these cable lugs, so you can know exactly which one to connect to each point, okay? I know they're slightly different length here. The way it bends its way through the chassis though, it all evens out by the time it's got down to the vehicle. Rope wise, it's supplied with an 11mm by 15m rope. That gives you about 13m usable rope. This is the trade-off with the integrated winch because of the compact size of it and the space available to us. Okay. The other thing that is needed is this little earth spacer. So basically, the earth cable, if you try to fit it onto there, it starts to catch slightly. So what we do is we use this spacer, just lifts it up and means that you get a good contact for the earth onto the motor. So that's the kit of parts. If you want to buy these to retrofit to your vehicle, we'd be more than happy to supply them, but we can't supply the front chassis cross member, we can't supply the different plastics. And a lot of people, when you start looking into the cost of doing this, it suddenly becomes quite clear that a more cost-effective option is to use something like our Grenadier winch mount. So, as an alternative to trying to retrofit the factory fitted package, what we have is we have two versions of our winch mount, which replaces the middle section of the bumper, okay? And you'll probably see on the screen in a minute some pictures showing what it looks like when it's installed. But basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take off that CMS and we're going to replace it with this winch mount. With the ECE model, it comes with these two bolt-on hangers that go here and here for supporting the cooler pack and the radiator. And this now gives us the ability to mount a normal size winch. So something like our Nomad here, really, really popular. Now the real advantage to the Nomad, and we sort of show it alongside, while the overall width is basically the same, what we're going to gain here is a physically larger drum flanges, etc. Gearbox is common. Free spool levers are common. Brake is common. Motor contactor is common. Motors are common. So the load this puts on the vehicle is exactly the same as the factory fitted option. But now we've got the winch mounted in a much more accessible position. Now we can have 30 meters of 11mm rope. So we've doubled our rope capacity. And in fact, this winch tray here is set up for the Nomad XL. That will take you out to 48 meters of 11mm rope. So you've got some real options there. We do this for the ECE model. We do it for the rest of the world model. And if you're looking for buying a brand new vehicle from the factory and you don't want any hassle at all, the integrated winch that we supply is a really, really good option. But if you're looking for more rope capacity, if you've bought a vehicle secondhand and you're looking to retrofit a winch, this becomes a much better option. As you can see, we've got the cutouts here for the parking sensors, so it retains all of the factory features. We've got extra recovery points built in. There's the ability to bolt onto the underside a extra hitch point, so if you want to put a receiver hitch on the underside for drop plate maneuvering trailers with the front of the vehicle, all works really well. And we've also can supply you with the kit to hardwire this back to the vehicle's batteries rather than needing to use the 500 amp breaker. And if there's not one there, we've got a solution then to actually mount a winch to the vehicle for you. Now, INEOS as an OEM manufacturer have it set up that when the overhead switch is in use, you can only use it in park, reverse or drive. You can't have the winch powered when you are in park in the gearbox, and this is to protect the parking pool and the transfer box. But anybody who's used an INEOS will know that if you've got it in drive or something and you open the door to get out, the damn thing puts itself into park, which means it's going to isolate the winch, which can be quite frustrating. So hardwiring your winch back to your battery is in many ways a better option, and we do it with a traditional sort of turnkey isolator. The other big advantage as well is the Grenadier's logic is looking to protect the vehicle. So if the battery is below 55% charge state, it won't even let you switch on the winch. If the vehicle's battery drops below 50% while you're winching, it's going to isolate the winch anyway. Whereas if you hardwire back, you bypass all of that and you can be in control of it. So there's options, there's pluses and minuses. You know, if you're not a confident user, maybe sticking with the INEOS setup where it's going to look after the vehicle and look after you in that way. Yep, that's the way to go. But maybe if you're a bit more of an experienced user or somebody who's going to be in very extreme situations, maybe solo traveling, where the importance of having the winch functioning regardless of what the vehicle wants to do, and you're using your own common sense to use the kit available to you, maybe having it hardwired back to the battery is a better way. So things for you to think about there. If you've got any questions, please drop a message or drop us an email, whatever, we'll get back to you. Quite happy to discuss all the options for you. Hope that helps.